Hi guys, I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how I repaired the huge crack under this rock in my backyard. For this project, I'm going to be using a Quikrete mortar repair. Actually, the full name of this one is Quikrete FastSet Repair Mortar. I bought the 3-pound bag and ended up using 2 of these on both sides of this rock, but for bigger jobs, it also comes in a 20-pound bucket and a 55-pound bag. Regardless of the size that you buy, the steps and the tips that you need to follow are going to be the same. So let's get started. This Quikrete mortar repair can be used on vertical and horizontal surfaces. That means you can use it on walls, you can use it overhead, you can use it on the ground. Wherever you need to repair concrete or mortar around your house is generally going to work. But you need to remember that it has to be at least 1/8 of an inch thick to 2 inches thick when you're using this stuff. That way it's going to dry correctly and it's not going to chip off easily. This will harden just like the original concrete. It provides excellent durability and long-lasting results as long as you follow the instructions on the container and the tips I'm going to give you in this video. Step number 1 is going to be prepping the surface. So you're going to brush away all of the loose dirt, clean up the area really well, and remove any of the loose bits of concrete or mortar that you might have left behind in the cracks. After cleaning up that area really well, you can decide whether or not you want to use any sort of backer rod to fill deeper cracks. So like I said, you want the repair mortar to be between 1/8 of an inch and 2 inches deep. I have a lot of empty space behind these cracks, so I'm going to be filling in most of these cracks to make sure that they're not too deep. I don't want to use too much product, but I do want to make sure that the backer rod is at least 1/8 of an inch inside of that crack. Typically, I try to make it up to 1/2 an inch deep inside of the crack. I want that concrete, that repair mortar, to get a really good hold inside of the cracks. That way it's going to resist chipping a lot better in the long run. Backer rods come in a lot of different sizes that you can typically find at any hardware store. I'm also using a pool noodle because some of the cracks are so large that a pool noodle, which is pretty much the same material as a backer rod, is going to be the best option in some of those areas. After making sure that that backer rod was in place, I was ready to mix up my mortar and get started. So you get about 15 minutes working time with this mortar once you've got it all mixed up. The 3-pound bag that I have lets you add water directly to the bag and knead it. You close the bag and then you knead it inside the bag to mix it up. I found that I wasn't personally able to mix it up very well that way. The first bag I did it that way, and after I got halfway through that bag, I realized that the stuff on the bottom was still kind of dry. The second time I did it, I just opened the bag up, added the water, and mixed it with a paint stir stick and then my hands, wearing gloves. You have to wear heavy-duty gloves that are going to protect your skin when you're using this stuff. You also want to wear a mask when you're mixing up this Quikrete. You don't want that concrete powder getting into your lungs, so make sure you're wearing a mask, wearing gloves, and eye protection just in case. Follow the directions on whichever size package that you're using in regards to how much water you add. Typically, you're going to need to mix it up for 3 minutes before you're ready to start using it. Spray down the area that you're about to apply that mortar onto. So a nice wet surface is going to help that new mortar stick to that area. It's going to help it bond better. So spray it down. You don't want standing water there, but you do want the surface to be wet. Now you're ready to apply that repair mortar with a trowel. So the 3-pound packages typically come with a yellow little trowel attached to it. My bag didn't have it, but I happen to have a similar little plastic trowel from another project. So I'm using that to apply a thin layer at first. I want to get it onto the surface and into those cracks that it has a good grab, and then go back over it to make it thick enough to really last. You need it to be at least 1/8 of an inch thick. I prefer to go for 1/4 of an inch thick to really make it sturdy and strong. You'll notice here that I'm doing more than just filling the cracks in. I've decided to cover up the old existing mortar completely just to have a nice uniform look across that area. It's just like a band. I want it all the same color so it all looks like it was originally done that way. That isn't something that you have to do to make sure that your concrete is going to last inside of a crack, but you can decide for yourself what you need to do to make it look best. To give that mortar a nice clean look all the way across the surface, after I applied the new repair mortar, I used a stiff bristle brush across the surface to kind of give it a brushed but smooth effect. So I just thought it looked better that way. It looked more professional. So this is just a dustpan brush that came with a dustpan that I bought at Lowe's or Home Depot, wherever. You can also maybe use a wire brush if you're not pressing too hard to get sort of the same effect if you have a wire brush at home. Or if you're really careful with a big grouting sponge and you don't use too much water, you could use a slightly damp grouting sponge, drag that across the surface to kind of smooth it out. Just depends on what kind of look you want. Don't get that concrete too wet though. You don't want to ruin the mix on that and have it not set or cure properly. In fact, a damp heavy-duty sponge might be handy to have around when you're doing this, just to make sure that you're wiping off the surfaces around where you're applying that mortar, where you don't want that mortar to stain it or get residue left behind on those areas. Just to clean up the excess around where you're patching, a damp cleaning sponge can be great for that. So that's pretty much the whole technique. You have about 15 minutes after mixing that mortar to really work with it, so make sure that you're working fast and only mixing up as much as you need at a time. So you can work in sections if you need longer. Just only mix up what you can do in 15 minutes and then mix up a new batch. That mortar should be completely set in 20 to 40 minutes, but I try to stay off of it and not touch it for a few hours just in case. I want to point out that it says on the instructions that if you're working in extremely hot, dry, or windy conditions when you're using this stuff, you might need to keep it sprayed down, kind of damp or covered, or use Quikrete's acrylic concrete cure and seal on top of that just to prevent it from drying too fast, I guess. For my project, I didn't have to use that today, but check the container for the cure and seal if you think that your conditions are going to meet that, just to see what you're going to have to do and how to use that properly. Okay, that's it for how to use Quikrete FastSet Repair Mortar for repairing concrete cracks around your house. If you have any questions, as always, put them in the comments below. I do try to answer them whenever I get a chance. And good luck with your project, guys.